So this second episode from my WFS adventures is with a very knowledgeable group of women who facilitated and ran all of our multi-incident scenarios. So this was for operational delegates only, and it was a little bit in the fireground and a little bit on the classroom. So these workshops are about providing an opportunity for incident command training and development aimed at ICL 1 and ICL 2. That's incident command level 1 and 2. So delegates weren't being forced to take part as incident commanders, but they did have the opportunity to resolve incidents operationally, working as part of the team as well. So as BA wearers, tool operators, pump operators, etc, etc. But it was full on. This was an all-day workshop for operational staff. They formed part of teams and crews and mobilized to incidents throughout the day. Gave a great opportunity to work with people from different services, and many of them made friends, I think, for life. They learned new techniques from others and trying something outside of your comfort zone as a group of instructors on hand to support them throughout it. So it was designed, I suppose, like a national operational group's familiarity and development. They were giving common understandings of key terms. It was great stuff for participants to pick up tools and tips from an incident command perspective. We had many levels of leadership facilitating and instructing on the events, from crew managers all the way up to some very high senior leadership. We had Lindsay on the podcast, very, very knowledgeable lady. And this was all about helping them work together to explore different incident grounds and develop that confidence in stepping into that incident command role. Whether they're a brand new firefighter that thinks this is something they want to do in the future, or maybe they are in a crew manager pool, watch manager pool, and those that are tipping into that ICL 2. So there was an opportunity for people to then come and take over the incident and get a briefing from the incident commander. There was train crashes. They were at Indy 2, multi-story. It's a great facility at the college and lends itself to lots of different incidents. And the workshop was fantastic. And this conversation that I'm having today is with the 6 instructors that ran it, or instructors/facilitators. It's a really great conversation, and we go into what does leadership look like? What does management look like? What does good incident command perhaps look like? How is it an art form? What does command presence look like? How do we help people, and specifically women, develop that confidence, maybe sometimes the assertiveness, but also there were some great points around, you don't have to shout, because people struggle with projecting their voice, but you haven't got to be the loudest person on the incident ground to demonstrate good leadership and good incident command. So there's loads to take away from today's episode, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Once again, a massive thanks to the WFS team for inviting me down once again. Be sure to check the notes to get yourself potentially to next year's event. And without further ado, it's a pleasure to introduce our multi-incident scenario facilitator and instruction team at WFS 2024. I'll see you on the other side.
So the multi-incident scenarios is basically it's an introduction to incident command for people who have got a little bit of experience in the fire service and are maybe thinking about the next step. But it's also it allows women to experience level 1 incidents. So maybe if they haven't got very much experience, so if they haven't wore breathing apparatus very often, they can form part of the crews. So it's live fires, it's RTCs, and essentially they work through the scenarios. The initial incident commanders who are wanting to exposure at that level, they step up and they're offered mentoring support throughout the duration of the scenario.
They kind of put their names forward and we get a list of all the delegates.
Okay.
And then we've got quite specific questions, what we put on there, because we also don't know who's turning up.
Yeah.
So when we're trying to plan the exercises, we think, great, it's going to run like this.
Yeah.
And it never does.
But the last thing you want is someone bursting into tears and going, I can't do this, I feel embarrassed, everyone's staring at me.
But what we find is you've got quite a vast array of experience.
Okay.
So it's like, we'll kind of go through the list and put people in positions where we think would benefit them the most. But again, until they actually turn up on the day, someone might say, oh, I want to do this, but then actually when they get here on the day, they're like, I don't want to do it anymore.
We take guidance from them, so we will brief them at the beginning of the day and we'll say, look, we are here, we can take a step back and just kind of monitor and then debrief at the end, or if you want us to kind of coach you. So it's kind of, we take a bit of a guide off the individuals themselves. So a lot of them will say, no, I want you there, I want you sat on my shoulder, I want you kind of directing us. And I think yesterday, so we had some fantastic candidates yesterday, or delegates yesterday, and they all did really well. But you just maybe there and you'll just say, right, have you considered this? What about what are you thinking if this happens? And so what is your plan, and where are your hazards, and are you sure everyone in the incident ground's aware? So it's just asking them questions to prompt the thought process. And then at the end of every incident, we always debrief kind of the incident as a whole. So the individual themselves would debrief the incident as they would a normal, kind of a real incident. They'll debrief it, and then we debrief the scenario, but specifically from an incident command perspective.
When would you ever get the opportunity to have a go at coming onto the incident with Kath Billen and
Because in the
Lindsay
service
McVeigh?
they don't let you do that because you're not that rank yet, and then you'll do some scenarios at your incident command centre, but
It's
usually they're virtual.
Yeah.
So this kind of level of playground, you're not going to get access.
It's
to
also
really.
without being assessed.
Yes.
I can't tell you how safe the environment is, and this is what we were all saying yesterday with the delegates. It's so controlled. They're there if you need to ask a question.
Yeah.
It was the experience. I said to Prue yesterday, I was like, I feel like I could go home and do my TCA now.
Yeah,
like have a go
yeah.
at the assessment. Like it's built a bit of confidence, but.
You know, I'm a firm believer if you can see it, you can be it. And I think for women coming on this workshop, seeing the likes of myself and Kath and you know, the other strong women in the team, but certainly from an incident command perspective, you know, Kath and I operate at the level 4 level now. But, you know, going back to basics, it's great. And you kind of like, oh, God, yeah. Sometimes I've seen delegates who are kind of like got everything nailed on. When I first stepped up to crew manager, it was that I was just constantly involved. So, and I soon realised, right, I need to take a step back. And then I was an incident command instructor. So it was like crew manager, station manager, crew watch and station manager, and group manager to an extent. So kind of level 1, level 2, not quite going level 3, 4, but and that just embeds the process so much. Yeah, and yesterday I said it as well. For me, you can sometimes turn up to something and you think, oh, holy Christ, how on earth? But I never try and let that show. And what I do is I'll stand and I'll continue to ask questions until I've kind of calmed down a bit and I've thought, right now I'm starting to get it and I'm coming up with a bit of a plan. So I'll ask question after question after question of kind of the responsible person or whoever it is that's got any information of the incident until I kind of calm myself down and think, right, now I know what I'm doing, now I know where I'm going. And then I'll start, right, kind of briefing the crews, but as well, for me, I've always been a massive advocate of, you might be the officer in charge, but you're probably never going to be the one with the most experience. So when I was on the trucks, and even now when I turn up to an incident, the people that you know that have got a vast amount of experience, I'll say, right, come with me.
I hate it at the beginning of workshops where they go introduce yourself. And you go around and I hear everyone going, my name's so-and-so, I've been 22 years. And I come to me and I'm like, I'm Pete, I'm a dad, I've got 3 dogs.
You're not defined by your time.
And then people go, oh yeah, sorry Pete, that's all lovely, but like, how long have you been in and what rank are you?
Because that's I'm now going to make
oh yeah, I've been firefighting for a little bit over nearly 2 decades. And I'm like, but what's your rank? Why does it matter? I'm not here to take command of the workshop. Why does it matter? But some people feel like it's such a status thing. Do you know what I mean?
But I think they're probably the people that are most insecure. But that's what they've got to hang on to. And it's like, no, you can be so much more than that. And I do think, and there are still people out there who do give that persona.
And also, you're in for a massive drop when you retire one day. I remember hearing a great speech where a guy goes to a seminar and he gets driven by a private car and he goes in through the back and he gets a special teacup and someone shows him to the room, and the next year he'd retired and he goes back there. He heard that one, and he's like, I had to get myself to the venue, I had to wait to come in, I asked them where the coffee was, and it was a Simon Sinek speech.
Yeah, in the styrofoam cup.
Yeah, styrofoam cup. It's called styrofoam cup. And he goes, I realised the China cup wasn't for me, it was for my rank. And I'm like, everyone will leave this thing, and all we ever deserve is a styrofoam cup. I always say you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. How do you coach people on getting far enough back, especially the size of some of the incidents you had yesterday? You had the train, you had some big stuff with a couple of sectors, knowing how far enough to come back and knowing that that's not you not being involved, but you can't stay in the chaos.
Having that discipline, isn't it, to step back and trust the people that you're delegating to, which it's difficult, isn't it? Especially if you don't know everyone. Our workshop is challenging in that sense because we have such a vast array of levels of experience, skill sets. It can be a barrier to our workshop to begin with. Like the first incident's usually always a bit messy and slow because people are finding the way and they're a bit anxious, don't know what to expect from the day. But as they get to know each other and start building up that trust, and also we, as much as it is very incident command focused, we want everyone involved to get the most out of the workshop. So we also give them the opportunity, because we've got a team of instructors, say to them, this is your opportunity to literally throw yourself in and have a go, and we'll step back and just be that support for you. Or if you want coached through certain things, especially around RTC techniques or firefighting, they've got that option as well. So we kind of decide that at the start, and then let them get the most out of it, really.
Important to understand command presence as well, because you mentioned about volume of voice and stuff, and that's not what command presence, that's not what command presence is about.
You haven't got to be the loudest in the room.
No, absolutely, but there's certainly, as a female, I feel like that's what people think command presence is, other firefighters, if you are, it's not that I'm not dealing with the incident and I'm not processing everything, I just don't need to shout about it, and that's command presence, not being the loudest, and you do this, you do that, and being really overly.
It's almost if you get to the stage of where you're having to shout the loudest, you've already lost control,
absolutely.
because that's what you've had to default to, and that's not going to resolve anything.
I had a great coach once, and he was talking about when he'd have big meetings with all of his board, he would intentionally speak quietly, because he says what happens is everyone else leans in, everyone else gets quiet, everyone else leans in. He says you don't have to just, everything just starts scaling up and scaling up and scaling up. They always said, he used to say, wise men speak when they've got something to say, and fools speak just to say something. And that's appropriate for either gender. It's just some people just speak to fill the void, don't they? But it takes a lot of self-awareness to go, I don't need to try and shout.
Be comfortable just not speaking.
Yeah, 100%.
And it was more about them experiencing what it's like, but when everything's coming at them at once.
Okay.
So there was a couple of scenarios yesterday where the incident commander was just literally surrounded. They had the BA teams around them, they had the entry control officer around them, they had oncoming. And so when we were debriefing, we kind of said, you just need to take control of that. So take a step back and invite people to speak when you want them, and then say, right, now you go away and do your job. Right now, entry control officer, BA teams, this is what I want to do. Now you go away. Initial OICs, and so kind
just
of
to every
bringing
individual,
people
their
in.
thing is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
But even that, whether it's not palming physically to the person, but just palm to the hand, going, just sorry, rest there, please, and let this person finish, because they'll march up because they've just got all this information, they don't want to forget it, and they want to march over to you and tell you right now, you need to just rest there, please.
And when it happens,
or feeling comfortable to ignore your radio,
because
it comes on constant. Sorry.
We got that coaching on scene yesterday, and then after it I was like, this is a game changer. I feel like I'm in control now, because beforehand it was just
I just think you need to set boundaries from the start, and I think if you're a bit wishy-washy with it at the start, it's very blurred lines, and then everybody thinks their thing, that they're entitled to give their bit there and then sort of thing. But you just need to be, like Lindsay said, from the start, boundaries, and then people feel more comfortable. It's whether someone would tell me to come to them or not, either way, it's okay, I've been given an order, that's what I'm doing. But if people are just people are just trying to help sort of thing, and everyone's trying to jump in, I just think you need to set boundaries. But I think command presence is a massive thing.
The Firefighters podcast was created to recognise, acknowledge, inspire, and hopefully even motivate these incredible individuals who have chosen to be part of the first responder community. Our driving purpose is to create a legacy resource for the current and future generations of firefighters and first responders. We get some incredible feedback from listeners and guests, and as the podcast grows, our desire to create longevity and sustainability means that we are asking for the support of our listeners. If you want to support the podcast, if you want to get discounts to our merchandise, hoodies, clothing, coins, patches, tallies, and also access to all of the incredible documents that get shared with us from our podcast guests and sector leaders, and please head over to our Patreon page, and for just £3 a month you can support the future of the podcast. Please finally hit that follow, subscribe or rate button on the platform you're listening, and wherever you're around the world, please support your emergency services responders, and thank you for listening.